is Jora, publisher and managing editor of South Asian Outlook. It's an electronic monthly which was launched in July 2001. And I'm also president of Global Home Media. Global Home word itself combines global and Sanskrit word home, which emphasizes the social, economic, cultural and political diversities and disparities are definitely there. But in spite of that, we are living in one world. At Global Home Media, we believe in the right to freedom of expression. Our guest today is Mr. Nadeepbains. Nadeepbains was elected as a Member of Parliament on June 28, 2004. He is the youngest member of the House of Commons in Canada.
Youngest for the Liberal Party.
Youngest for the Liberal Party.
That's right.
Thank you. And he represents the riding of Mississauga-Brampton South in Ontario. During these past 18 months, Nadeep has represented a unique and diverse community and is involved in many community activities. Nadeep has served on various parliamentary committees with distinction. On October 7th, 2005, Nadeep was appointed Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister. Nadeep is also part of Canada-US, Canada-Canada, Canada-India and Canada-Taiwan friendship groups. That's a lot of things.
Yes.
Nadeep, you were born in Toronto in 1977.
Correct.
When did your parents migrate to Canada?
First of all, thank you, Siddhesh, for putting together this interview. And on a personal level, it's great that you're taking it upon yourself to put together a great program. To address your first question, my parents arrived here in the early 70s. My father migrated first in 72. Got married and came back, and my mom came in 74. And so they were here since the early 70s in Toronto. And then we recently moved to the riding of Mississauga-Brampton South about 20 years ago.
What were there and what were your experiences as a turban gentleman with beard?
I think the experiences from my dad's or my parents' generation is very different than the experiences that I've gone through. My father came in the early 70s. There's still a great deal of obstacles that were posed to them by the mainstream because of the way he looked, by the fact that he wore a turban, by the fact that he had a different skin color and so forth, and maybe language issues, maybe an accent and so forth. So he encountered many difficulties. But myself, growing up, I grew up in a very different environment. I grew up in Toronto in a very diverse community, and Mississauga-Brampton South is probably one of the diversest ridings across this country, with representation from almost every part of the world. And so my experience was very different. Growing up in the riding, I felt very comfortable. I felt very proud of this country. I never felt as if I was a second-class citizen, and I was very proud to practice my identity, but at the same time be proud of being Canadian.
Yeah, you're right. In 1970s, early 70s, there's a lot of Paki bashing.
There was a lot of inappropriate language used.
Yeah,
yes.
Even with a person with no beard and turban.
Absolutely, anyone. Yeah, that's
looked
right.
at badly.
That's right.
How did growing up in Canada shape your personality?
I think I was very blessed to grow up in a country where I was really a fusion of two cultures. As you indicated, my parents came in the early 70s, so they still have a direct link with India and Punjab and the culture and the language and the cooking and so forth. So I grew up in that environment, but at the same time I grew up in a country where I also had an opportunity to learn about other cultures, about other faiths, about other communities. So my experiences have been very good, and I think it's helped me mature as a person and really become more open-minded and accepting of the world around me.
Where and what did you study in Canada?
I went to high school here in my riding at Turner Fenton Secondary School, and subsequent to that I went to York University to do my undergraduate degree in business. After I completed my business degree, I went to the University of Windsor to do my MBA. And I was offered a full-time job at Ford. And during my tenure at Ford, I completed my certified management accounting designation. So my background is really in finance and accounting.
And how did this lead you into politics?
Yeah, you do some financial analysis and you realize it's not your calling. No, I actually at a very young age was involved with various political parties and individuals at the local level, grassroots levels. I was involved with various social organizations and always had an inclination of getting involved in public life and improving the quality of life. I reached my potential today because of the environment I grew in. I grew in an environment where I had a chance to get a good education. I enjoyed a good quality of life. It was a safe community, a clean environment. I was able to practice my faith, all these things. And I felt very blessed and fortunate to be given all these opportunities, and I wanted to give back. And so I always worked in some capacity. And when I contested for the Liberal nomination 2 years ago, around this time, I had no notion that I would win, to be honest with you. I contested with the notion that I would put my name in the race. And maybe 4 to 8 years, if I was very fortunate, I'd be an opportunity to be elected member of Parliament. And I was very blessed that I was accelerated a bit, and I'm an MP right now.
That's really great. How has your family background helped you in politics?
I think I gained a lot from my grandfather, actually, who was a councillor in Rajasthan. And so he had this notion of building a strong community. He played an active role in building the local schools, the hospital, and college there. He played a very instrumental role. And so I think I come from a family where we recognize the importance of the community. We recognize the importance of a good education, good healthcare system. And so those philosophies, that teaching is really emulated from one generation to the other. And my grandfather really preached that to me at a young age, to get involved and to not only worry about yourself, but worry about your neighbors as well. So I think that's helped me a great deal understand not only my role, but the role of my community in Canada.
That's really great. So you're a good grandson.
Well,
your grandfather's
I'd say I'm lucky to have a good grandfather.
Well, a bit of a serious thing. Paul Martin coined the term democratic deficit.
Yes.
In the recent election, as they say, he has parachuted Michael Ignatieff into the Etobicoke Lakeshore riding. How do you think it's compatible with Paul Martin's idea of democratic deficit?
No, I think it's a good point you raise. I mean, if you look at the democratic deficit, it not only speaks at the riding level, but really empowering parliamentarians to engage and represent and be vocal. I think, first of all, committees now are elected in the House of Commons. There are more free votes than ever on a whole host of issues. So there's been a great deal of democratic reform there. In terms of individuals being sent into various ridings, I don't know the logic of each decision. It's never something that's ever contemplated with me, it's ever discussed with me. I do, however, believe that there should be an open nomination. I've been very adamant about that. I've been very clear about that. I want an open nomination process, and I would advocate for that. But there are instances where I think the leader takes